I'm Cameron John. I appreciate your time here. I'll be the moderator. I'm going to help direct questions to Elise and some of the other folks, and Atai, some of the other folks that are here on the call to help get your questions answered. We are so excited to have you here. We've built out a great program, but this is driven by you guys. So if you have questions, put it in the Q&A. Put it in the Q&A section. We'll make sure it gets prioritized, and we'll try to answer it in the order it's received. So with that, Elise, take it away, please.
Okay, well, it's nice to meet everybody virtually. Again, my name's Elise. I've been with Houzz for a little over 7 years, and I was lucky enough to be part of the initial launch of Houzz Pro. So excited to show you guys a little bit more about what Build can do for your business. So let me share my screen here. So everybody should be seeing on their screens right now, this is my demo account within Houzz. So this is my Houzz profile. This is kind of the place that you'll start when you first sign into Houzz.com. Now I pulled this up because I wanted to call out where to access Houzz Pro when you're on a desktop or a laptop. There's this blue Go to Houzz Pro button right in the top right here. So we'll go ahead and click on that. And then from here, you're going to be landing on your Houzz Pro homepage. So lots of great how to get started with Houzz Pro, quick call out action items for you to take within the software. There's some quick actions below, creating an invoice, tracking time and expenses. So lots of great tools in here for you. And if we continue to scroll, you can see this page is segmented by projects first. Houzz Pro is at its core a project management and project-based system. So we'll go through an example project together so I can walk through a couple different features. Any leads that you've gotten through Houzz or any outside of Houzz, you can track those through Houzz Pro as well. Financial documents, idea books, and so on. So just great resource homepage here when you first land on Houzz Pro. Now we're going to start by talking a little bit more about estimates. I know today's focus is a project management deep dive. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate to our projects menu at the very top of Houzz Pro. And I have my recent projects here that I can look at, any that I've recently opened or worked on. I also have all projects as an option. So let's go there. And this is going to take us to our main projects tab page. So I'll be able to see at a glance every project that I've worked on that's not currently archived, and that will live on this page. You can also see a timeline view, which this timeline we're going to go through in detail for one specific project, but this is the overall timeline. If there are multiple tasks and events that are moving for multiple projects that you're doing within Houzz Pro. Tasks, we're going to revisit this section as well. And then of course, your clients and your client contact list, as well as any vendors that you may work with, you can add those in here also. So let's dive back into a specific project. So if we go all projects, and I'm going to use our friend Bob Ross as an example. So let's click into his project here. This is his kitchen remodel project. So before we dive into estimates, again, as a quick overview of this page, you have quick actions like being able to create an estimate from here or an invoice. We can even do change orders, which we're going to cover today as well. Tasks, takeoffs. And then if you click on more, you have additional options with creating a purchase order or a retainer for a project. You'll notice you can also invite your subcontractors to a project. So if you have subcontractors you've added into Houzz Pro, you'll be able to invite them to this project directly. And again, we're going to go over this in a little more detail here in today's session. Great overview on the right of details about your client. So I can see Bob Ross here, his contact details for phone number and his address. If this project is assigned to anybody, currently it's assigned to myself as the admin of this Houzz Pro account. And then there is a call out here to help set up your online payments. So you can use the estimating, invoicing features and be able to take payments online versus just checking cash. Okay. So let's navigate to our estimates tab. Again, you can create an estimate from multiple places if we did the quick view here, or you can do it from the left-hand menu. So let's click there. From this page, you're going to be able to see all the estimates that I've done for this particular project. So this is all related to Bob Ross's kitchen remodel. If I wanted to go into one of these and edit them, I would be able to do that. You can see the 3 ellipses when you're hovering over an estimate. If I click on that, this allows me to preview and share the document or even export it as a PDF right from this menu. Now, if I want to create a new estimate, you would click on this button here on the right-hand side. And then you have three options. You can either create one from scratch. You can upload your own, which could be a CSV file format or a PDF file format, or you can use one of our pre-built out templates for you. So before I go into the template view, I want to build one from scratch so you guys can see what this looks like. So if you build from scratch, it'll populate the preview of the estimate where you're going to be doing all your work on. Once this loads, here we go. So really beautiful design of every document within Houzz Pro is going to give you this really great branding at the top. So whether it's an estimate or an invoice or a change order, it will always have your branding on it. So it looks very professional. It presents a very good, just professional image to your clients. It'll have your business name, your company details like address, phone number. You can edit these directly from here. So if we click edit, it will allow you to update the fields that are not grayed out, document information, and then the company info. This you can edit further from your Houzz Pro settings or through your Houzz profile. You can make changes to that and it will reflect on your Houzz Pro side as well. All right, other great details on this estimate, the client details. So you'll be able to see their name, their email, their address, when this was created. You can even have a due date. So let's say I want my client to finish this by a week from today, so the 25th. We can change the estimate title. The number is pre-populated, but you can adjust that if you'd like. And then again, the name, maybe we're going to say kitchen, excuse my bad spelling, May 2022, and then hit the check mark and that'll save that for you. So when you are building from scratch, it's exactly what it sounds like. There is no information already populated into the actual body of the estimate yet. You'll be able to add items and you can do that several ways. If you click add items here, you can either create a brand new item and save it into the Houzz Pro system. So let's do that option first. Let's just say this is going to be granite countertop with beveled edges. Maybe it's a custom product you've made for a client. You can add that in. Category, it'll give you a drop-down list here, but you can also type it in. So if we do countertops, for example, maybe I can select that option. Material cost, let's say it's kind of expensive, $5,000. And you'll notice there's these little private icons. These numbers are private within your product library and will not be visible to the client until you actually put it on your estimate. So let's say the labor cost is maybe $100. If you expand more details, you'll be able to add even more, like what the markup should be, the MSRP, quantity, unit type. I know there are some contractors and builders I've worked with that like to do it by the hour. So you have that as an option, or by piece, or of course, linear feet, square feet, or cubic yards. And you can add your own unit type if you have something more custom. You can add the vendor. If they're already in your vendor list, they'll be right here, but you can also simply add a vendor just by clicking create new vendor, and that will open up this portion of this menu. Additional things, any client-facing description. So if you want to explain in more detail what this product is, this is the place where you can do that. And again, it will be client-facing. So say custom countertop. If it has a SKU, manufacturer, and you can even upload photos if you have them. Maybe you went to the granite yard and you took some photos for the client, you'd be able to upload those here as well. So let's create this custom product. And now that lives right on our estimate. So we can see the details of the product here. Again, we can add and edit right from this menu as well. Maybe we want to add from our current parts list. We do have thousands of preloaded parts and materials for our United States clients. So if we click into from parts list, we'll see a pop-out window here on the right where we can see the items that I've created. So I can see all my different items. If I go back to the library, there's also broken down by the type of part of the project, like planning, between plans and permits, rental equipment. Maybe I need to add the building permit fee on here. And we're also going to need dumpsters and an edger. These are just, of course, random examples, but you have a very wide variety of products that you can choose from. And if you are looking for something specific, let's say that custom product I just saved, I can go to countertop. Actually, you know what? That's not what I called it. Apologies. It's granite. So you want to remember what you titled it, because that will help you pull it up here in this parts list. And there it is right there. So I'd be able to add that in again if I needed to.
So there's a lot here in this parts list, guys.
Yes.
I want to make sure that we reiterate that if you have questions, this is the time to speak up. Put it in the Q&A box, and we'll make sure that Elise or some of the other team members get it answered for you. So this is your time. Please jump in and ask anything you'd like to know about.
As Cameron mentioned, we have lots and lots of parts and materials. We really tried to think through the entire building process from start to finish for construction projects. So you might find it in this list. And if you don't want, or if you don't see what you're looking for in this list, that's why we gave you the custom option to be able to add that in. And then lastly, if you do create any templates, I'll explain that a little more when we get to using the templates for estimates. We also have system templates here for estimates, and then any that you create yourself. So these are some that I've made in the past through this account, where, for example, let's say I built this, and this is kind of the basis of how I do kitchen remodel projects. I could actually save this. So if I go to more actions, save as template, and let's maybe say kitchen remodel master estimate. So if that is something I'm going to use often, I can also show what's included on this template, save this, and that will now live in my library along with my parts.
Elise, what about changing the price of an item if it's already added in there? If anyone
Great question. Yes. All you have to do on the body of the estimate is hover over whether you're changing material or labor. Everything should be customizable here. So let's say normally it's 5,000, but this time it's actually going to be 4,000 for some reason. Maybe I had a discount with the provider. The labor maybe is going to be a little more expensive. So we'll change that to 500. And you can even add your markup here. So if you can mark up each item, or you can do the entire document. It's a little easier when you do the whole document. So let's say you do a 20% fee. You can add that in, click done there. And then you can also add your taxes. So is material taxable, is labor taxable, or is both? You can select those options as well. It's always going to give you the total here. And you'll notice there is this save function that's going to just auto save for you every time. And you'll see the little green check mark once that has saved. All right. And you'll see in addition down here, you can create tax rates from here if you don't have any set up yet. You can do that directly through your Houzz Pro settings as well. And it'll show the total. It'll also show setting up payments. So you can schedule a payment or request a deposit. I'm actually going to do this on the other estimate that I'm going to show everybody. So we'll put a pin in that for just a minute. A reminder to set up your online payments if you haven't yet. Super useful tool. And then uploading additional details. So you can upload files. Maybe you have a previous work order or receipt or photos of the project that you want to include on this estimate. You can upload those right here, either by simply dragging and dropping or uploading the file directly from your computer. Terms and conditions. This is a great section. Yes.
Before you jump into T's and C's, Chris had a question about the add items button. Doesn't have a drop down for him. Can you go back and do that step again?
Yes. Let me go back up to the top. So if you're adding items and you click, you can either select from parts list or create new.
Got it.
And if you're not seeing that, you might need to just minimize your screen a little bit of what you're seeing.
Mm-hmm. Sarah wanted to know, is there a point at which documents cannot be edited? We were going through all this customization and editing. Is there a point past which the documents can't be edited anymore?
Yes, let me show you that. So let's say we can do the preview and share. So I will answer that question, but to answer that, I want to show you kind of the next step here. When you're ready to send this estimate to a client, you'll click the preview and share button, and it'll give you the preview of what this actually looks like for your client. So you can see the electronic signature section. If you had added in terms and everything, that would be here as well. So your client, you can either email them the link, you can share it, you can export it as a PDF if you'd like, so you can email it to them, and then the client will be able to sign and approve that directly from that email. Now, the other option is you can approve it yourself. So let's say you're sitting in a meeting with your client and they're like, yes, we got the go ahead, green light, let's move forward. You say more actions on the estimate and you would click approve. You can also allow clients to approve by line item. So you can give them the individual options to go through each one. So you would approve this, approve it one more time. You'll notice it saves for you. Now, if you wanted to edit this, you can duplicate it and edit it, or you can reopen for editing here. Hopefully that answered Sarah's
Otherwise,
question.
it's not editable, right? You have to click that button.
Yes, correct. Yep, okay. You wouldn't be able to, that's a great follow-up question. You wouldn't be able to come in and like click on the price. You would need to go to more actions and then reopen for editing. Okay.
Any other questions from the floor in this document flow creation before we keep moving in terms of T's and C's and other things?
I will keep plugging along then. I did see a question here. I think it was part 2 of Chris's question. As far as like where you can add items, you can do it from the estimate. You can also go to the manage menu here at the top, and then you'll see at the bottom parts and categories. So if you were to click on that, it's actually going to take you to the full menu of any templates that you've created for estimates or our system templates, as well as our parts and categories list. So you would be able to create a new item from here as well. You would just select the create new item option and it would pull up that same window that we were looking at previously. Okay, let me navigate back to Bob Ross's project here so I can show you how to use one of our system templates to create an estimate. You can always go follow the path back to his project. And this time, let's actually do it through, if we go to the project's overview and you create an estimate from here. Again, you have the 3 options and you do from template. This is going to pull up any templates that you've created yourself. So there's my kitchen remodel master estimate right at the top. But below that, you'll also see all of our system templates. So currently we have living area, bathroom, kitchen, interior paint, and deck. I know we are working on adding in some more templates, so feel free to send over your product suggestions if you have any templates that you'd like to see in here. But let's use the kitchen as an example. So let's highlight that and then click create, and that will open that estimate for us. And then once that opens up, you're going to see a slight difference with doing it from scratch versus using our templates. So I love the templates personally. I think this is one of the coolest features of our build software. It pulls your material and labor costs, and every single thing that's really needed in a kitchen remodel is included on this estimate already for you. Now, anything here is editable, just like we were talking about previously. You can change the prices. You can move things around by hovering these back and forth. You can even remove items. So if you highlight this, you'll see remove items right at the top. But again, as I was saying, I love this feature because it pulls the costing for you based on your client's zip code. So Bob Ross, his zip code, he lives in Costa Mesa, California, 92660. So our system recognizes that zip code as being in Southern California and pulls labor and material costs based on that location, because costs in California will be different than in New York, than in Texas. It really varies depending on the state. And then, of course, we know material costs fluctuate a lot these days, so you can edit any of these if you need to.
Yeah, this cost and labor catalog, it's intended to be a place to start. So you don't have to go find each and every detail when you're preparing documents for your clients.
Yes, I know the builders and contractors I've worked with that have used this portion of Houzz Pro. It saves them hours on estimating because they're not spending time having to dig through what all these costs are for larger scale projects. So let's do again. Let's say that my markup is 20% and I'm going to apply this to the entire estimate. You even have settings within an estimate document that you can show what your client will be able to see. So that client description, if you have that, you can just toggle that on or off. If you have images uploaded to that particular product, you can show those as well. And then I'm showing pretty much everything else, the taxes, what room they're in. If the room isn't relevant, you can just take that off. markup as well, labor, material, and then the unit. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. You can add a custom column if you'd like. Just click OK to save. And then what we haven't talked about yet are the terms and conditions, memos, scheduling online payments. You can do that both from an estimate as well as from an invoice. So I'm going to show you that here. Scroll down to the bottom of the estimate all the way. And it'll scroll on this box, and you'll need to scroll just on the outside menu. So for payments, you can, again, schedule payments on an estimate in advance if you'd like. You can also wait to do that and do that on the estimate. It's kind of up to you and what your workflow looks like. But let's say I did want to include that on an estimate for my client. We can schedule a payment from here or request a deposit. So let's start by requesting a deposit. You can do a fixed amount or a percentage. So maybe we'll do a fixed amount, and we're going to say we need $5,000 upfront to start the project. It will also tell you the percentage of the total that is. Payment terms, you can add a custom payment term. We also have net 60, net 30, net 15, and due upon receipt. So let's say for the deposit, we want that to be paid right away. So we'll say due upon receipt, and we're going to send it to the client today. Click create. And what that will do is populate that deposit right here as a payment scheduled on this estimate. If you're going to have, say, 2 other payments throughout the project, you can schedule a payment again and then schedule it a second time. And you can also rename these. So payment 1 after deposit, and then maybe final payment upon project completion. So you can title these really whatever you'd like. But again, it will auto-calculate for you what these totals are and the percentage of the total cost of this estimate. And this will update. So let's say this is net 30 instead. And we'll do this one as well. You can also fluctuate these dates. So let's say this is actually going to be due in July. And then we'll give this one like a week later. And it will arrange those for you. And it will put custom since you are picking a custom date. I'll pause here for a second. Does anyone have questions so far on this? Looks like I'm just looking in the chat here.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't think there's a question on this specifically, but there were a couple questions if we could take now. Are you going to cover QuickBooks and invoices in a sec, or do you want to touch on it now?
I am going to cover invoices, but I'm happy to answer Rebecca's question. She said, could we use QuickBooks Online with these invoices? Yes, our software does integrate with QuickBooks Online. And once an invoice is approved and paid, it will actually sync to your QuickBooks Online account. So great way for keeping your accountants and your bookkeepers happy.
Yeah, and Susan, we'll get into the QuickBooks section in a sec.
All right. And then Dave asked a question, how often are labor and material costs updated? It's typically every quarter is what our goal is for updating those numbers. And we use the Real Remodel Max Index for pricing. Okay, I'm going to keep going here. If you needed to delete a payment request, you can do that as well. Just highlight the payment and there's a little trash can on the right-hand side. We already talked about files, so that's there. Terms and conditions. So if you have special terms and conditions you put on every estimate you send out, if you go to My Templates here in the right-hand corner, this will pull up your templates for terms and conditions. So for example, I created one during 2020 for COVID that was a 14-day guarantee. So if I added that in, that's going to go ahead and add in that template for me. If I wanted to add anything additional, I can just continue typing here. Let's see, if I wanted to create a template. So if you have, again, you're brand new to Houzz Pro, you haven't set up an estimate for the first time, you can set company defaults as far as terms and conditions, memos, and the email that goes to your client, or you can create a new one directly from here. Let's say master TNC for estimates. Perfect. And then you can just save and add, and that will add it not only here, you can see that right here, that will also save it to your templates going forward. So here it is right at the top. Alrighty. And then lastly is a memo. So if you're sending anything over to your client, you want to add a quick note. Hi, Bob. Thanks for meeting. Here's your estimate. You can add that in as well. And then lastly is requiring an electronic signature. You can toggle this on or off, totally up to you. I really love this feature because they can just digitally sign it without having to print it or worry about having that paper copy. So the electronic signature there is there for you if you'd like to have that for your client.
And what if the client doesn't want to sign electronically? Can we just manually approve it for them? Yes.
So if you're meeting with a client and let's say you're sitting in their home, you're talking about the project and they're like, you know what, you don't need to send it to me. We're going to go ahead and move forward. We're good to go. Instead of doing the preview and share and sending it to your client, you can go into the estimate itself, go to more actions and approve or decline from here.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Let's say you also had a client who they did want a paper copy. Some people like the paper copy. That's just how they work. So if you go to more actions again, you can actually export this as a PDF and you would be able to download that to be able to email them or print it out for them as well. And there's a preview of what that looks like broken down by category here. Okay. Trying to think what else on this page would be helpful for everybody. Settings, we talked about that, what you can toggle on and off for your client. You can also group if you want to, like for example, this is grouping the estimate by the actual category. You could say none as well, and it wouldn't group it that way.
One thing that came out in the chat window is about templates.
Mm-hmm.
Fabio wanted to know if there's templates available. Maybe you can show the template center.
Yes, absolutely. So you can save this as a template if you'd like, but if you go back to the manage menu and then locate parts and categories here or estimating templates, you can find it really from either place. So if we go to parts and categories, that's going to be under templates. And then you'll see our system templates that we have currently, and then any templates that you have created yourself and saved. And you can create new templates from here as well.
Yeah, so the intent, Fabio, is that you don't have to start from scratch.
Exactly. Yes, we don't want you to reinvent the wheel every time you do an estimate, 100%. And to answer Nicole's question, yes, this will be recorded. So we'll be able to share it out after the fact. All right. Any questions on estimates? Anything else I can expand on for everybody?
There was a question from Sarah in the payment section about adding trails on the bottom. Is there a place that shows how the payment was made?
Yes.
Other than log payment?
Let me go back to the estimate here. Okay, so this one has been sent. And if I scroll down to the bottom of the estimate, you're going to see an activity stream where you'll be able to see details for the entire activity on the document. So I can see I sent it. First, I created it and then I sent it off. And it also tells you who did it. So if the client were to approve it, it would say the client's name. But if I go in and let's say I'm sitting with that client who doesn't need the digital copy, I would just approve this myself. And then again, it would update the activity stream here at the bottom. Once that saves, let me refresh the page. There we go. And now I can see that it was approved by me as the company. And if it were paid, you would also see that here. Once the estimate is approved, just to further talk about payments for a second. So once this is approved, you'll notice that now you have a log payment option on the estimate. So let's say that your client paid the deposit, but they didn't pay the other two payments. We can actually log the deposit here right on the estimate. And then you can select how they paid. Really cool thing we have now is actually an integration with Venmo and Zelle. So if your clients pay you that way, you can record it that way. Let's say though that they paid you with a credit card. It'll have the amount there, the date that they paid. And then if you'd like, you can do a reference number, whatever you'd like to name that. You can send a receipt to the client, which will send them an email receipt, and then click done. And that will actually log this payment with the status as paid. You can see that here. And this says unapplied payments because it hasn't actually been applied to an invoice yet, but it will. I will show you how that works when we get to the invoice section. And
And can you see in here how, like what method it was paid? Cash, check, Zelle, Venmo, like in this view right here?
It would be, let's see, if I send the receipt. Okay, so it'll send it. I don't think it actually says it on this view. If I refresh the page, let's see if the activity stream says it at the bottom. Okay, so payment, manual payment received. So if you are entering the payment, you can record it as credit card, but it will say manual payment. And then if you still want to see what this looks like with the payment on there, the payment schedule set up, the terms and conditions, you can just simply go back to preview and share, and that will pull up the preview. You'll notice the status changed from draft or approved. Now it says partially paid because the deposit's paid, but you still have the other two payments that are pending. So if you scroll down here, you'll see at the bottom, there's your total. Here's your payments. So there's the deposit that has actually, okay, here's where you can see it. In the preview and share, payment method is credit card. So it does notate that on this view. And then payment 1, payment 2, there's the due dates, terms and conditions, and the memo. And that will be right underneath the total. Any other questions on the estimate piece? Okay. If not, I will go back to Bob Ross's project. And the next thing I wanted to show everybody is change orders. So change orders, we know, are wonderful. Within the Houzz Pro system, they're really meant to be an increase in price from what your original estimate provided the client as far as cost. And we want to make sure you are able to keep track of those changes throughout the project. So you're not sitting 3 months in at the very end of the project and having to either eat that cost or go back through receipts and then tell your client, oh, remember that flooring we had to put in and we chose a different option. Well, it's X more dollars. It makes more sense to do it in real time, which is the purpose of our change order feature. So within a project, you're going to be able to see change orders here. I would highly recommend, though, creating a change order from an approved estimate, because then the documents will be linked together. So if we go back to our estimate view here, I'm going to pick this kitchen remodel that we did when we created the estimate from scratch. It does have to be an approved estimate to do the change order through it. So when you click on more actions, you'll notice you can create an invoice, a change order, or a purchase order from here. So let's create a change order. What that is going to do, because I didn't select any items, actually, let me go back a step to clarify. So if I go back to the estimate here and I would like to only do a change order for a specific part of the estimate, I can actually select that portion. Let's say I want to do those two. And then that will create a change order just for that part of the estimate and not the rest of it. If I wanted to do it for the whole thing, you just deselect everything and have everything unselected, and you would create a change order from there. But let's say I wanted to do the countertops and then the plans and permits. I needed to update these for some reason. Come over to more actions, create change order, and then you're going to see the preview. Again, looks a document experience very similar to the estimate. Details, due date. Let's say this will be due by Friday. It was created today. And then the linked documents here are going to show you the estimate that we created this change order from. It's linked right here. And then this is the draft of the change order that we're looking at right now. Okay, so let's say for the granite, I had planned to do one. I didn't add a unit type when I initially created this, but I had only planned for one, let's say, slab. And I said it was going to be $4,000 for material and $500 for labor. And then my markup was $900 and both were taxable. So let's say for that, I wanted to edit something, said need an additional countertop slab. That is the reason for the change order. I always recommend putting in that note because it shows why you're doing the change in the first place. It'll say updated. And then let's say instead of one, we need two. And for unit, I would select pieces. And then we'll keep the cost the same. Maybe the labor is going to be double now. You can adjust that also. And then when you scroll over, you'll notice that affects the markup because it's 20%. And then that affects the total also. So you'll see that it's everything you're changing is highlighted in yellow. And then when you scroll down, you're going to see the updated cost with all the changes that you just made, as well as the planned cost initially and the difference between the two. And then some of my pros do this, some don't. It's completely up to you. But if you'd like to add a fee for a change, like let's say they changed their mind on the type of countertop they wanted or the type of flooring they wanted, that would be a situation where a fee may be appropriate. So, okay, for my time and the cost to do this, that's going to be an additional $100 that I'm collecting as a fee. So you can add that on as well. I'll pause here for a minute. Any questions on change orders?
Anybody else on change orders? This is it's an important piece of the flow. But if not, we can keep moving ahead.
And Chris said, is there a way to have no due date populated? Which, yes, you don't have to put a due date on the, on the estimate or change order, but on the payment schedule, you would, to show the client when they would need to pay. So for a change order, we have one payment option here. You can change the due date. Let's say this is a couple weeks out. Payment terms, this is due upon receipt. And that would be, again, changing the date to today. So if you are pushing this out, it'll default to custom. And let's go back to June 10th. And we'll change this payment name, payment for countertop change. This is a great place too, just like on the estimate, how you can add terms and conditions or a memo. If you're adding files, this is a great place where, let's say you're doing a change order because you're ripping up the floor in somebody's kitchen and then you found mold underneath. That would be a great place to put maybe photos of the damage to the floor. So that correlates with like why you're doing the change order. You needed to order more subflooring or whatever the case was to compensate for that change throughout the project. Okay, electronic signature, again, you can require this or not. You can toggle that on or off. And then if we scroll back up to the top here, you can export this as a PDF. You can archive it if you'd like. You can preview and share, and then send this off to your client, and they will be able to see highlighted in yellow what has changed as well. And then again, what will be due? There's their payment request, and then there's their signature line. So really great part of, the project management side is you never know what might come up during a project. So change orders are a great way to still connect it to the original, signed legal estimate that you have with your client, but to be able to compensate for those changes in real time throughout your project instead of waiting until the very end. I'm going to take a step back here to our project. Now, invoicing. Let's go back to that estimate that I used from one of our templates, which is going to be back in estimates underneath the project view. You can also see like total financial information here based on all the estimates and financial documents that I've created and what statuses they're in. So let's take this one that we've partially paid with a deposit already. And for estimating, again, our document flow is really most effective when you're working through an estimate, you get it approved, then a change happens, you convert into a change order from the estimate for whatever section you need to edit. And then from there, you convert the approved estimate into an invoice. So to create an invoice, you go to the approved estimate and you'll see this create invoice button right there in blue. You can also see it right from this drop-down menu. So create invoice here, and you'll notice this scheduled payment pop-up comes up. So what this is saying is of the 3 payments that we set up previously with the deposit and payment 1 and payment 2, payment 1 and payment 2 have not been paid yet on this approved estimate. So this is asking, do you want us to transfer this over to your invoice? You can say cancel if they paid you maybe some other way, or you can transfer them and then create the invoice from there. And then once that populates here, and now we have our invoice. So we actually have our linked document here from the estimate that we originally had for the client due date. This is based on the final payment date that we had in the previous payment schedule. Here's everything that was included for that estimate. And then these say cancel because it would be below the total amount of the project, which is okay. But these would be carried over to your project or to your invoice, and you can schedule additional payments here too. So if I wanted to schedule a 4th payment, even a fifth payment, you can add that in addition. And then there's your terms and conditions again, your memo. You can adjust all of these things if you'd like. And then you'll see at the very bottom, the invoice attaches to the estimate here as well.
Elise, are you gonna dig into preview and share so like you can show what the client would see on their end with either estimates or change orders?
Yep. So estimates, we did do the preview and share previously, but preview and share will look similar on every document within Houzz Pro, whether it's an estimate or a change order or an invoice. Anytime you hit that preview and share option, you'll be able to see what the client can see. So here's your company details on your invoice, the client information, again, due date, when it was created, partially paid. Here's all your estimate details with the cost. And if I scroll down, again, your totals here. And then here we can see that the deposit was paid. And then here's the additional payments where the client can actually click pay now. And if you have online payments set up, they'll be able to pay you with not only check or cash, of course, manually, but also with Zelle, Venmo, credit card, or ACH bank transfer.
And these are going to be billed separately, the 3 separate payments in here?
Correct. Yes. And then you can change the due dates here. I know these both say June 2nd, but let's say this one was June 2nd, and then the next one was June 30th. You can space them out. And one more thing to call out on this page that's important is what you're actually showing to your client. So customize what your client can see right at the top. If you go to settings for pricing, you can either show everything. So for that, if we were to select all, it's going to show all the material costs, all the labor costs, the markup, and the total for every line item. If you didn't want to show that, maybe let's deselect that and we can show category pricing. We can also show the detailed breakdown, the detailed pricing, which is populating here. A lot of times my clients like to do those 3, but leave off their markup if they don't want to show that to the client. So completely up to you if you'd like to show that or not. In addition, item details. So if you're like, my client really doesn't need to know the item info. So if you had descriptions and photos and things on here that you didn't need to show, you could uncheck that. You can also uncheck the quantity, unit, and cost. So that would take out those columns. And then they would just see the total for every column, or for every row, excuse me. And then approval. So if you want to have approval on everything, great. And then that would issue this invoice upon sending. So that's where there's a difference between estimates and invoices. Once an invoice is approved and issued, you can no longer edit it. You would actually need to go back and void the invoice and then start over. Any other questions on like the client view here?
So the inverse of my previous question, is there a way that a client can get billed just once for an estimate with a change order on it?
Yes. They would just do one payment. Instead of doing a deposit and multiple payments, they would just have one payment on the estimate or the invoice.
Great. Thanks, Elise.
No problem. Good questions. Okay.
Sarah's filling up the question box.
I love it. And it looks like my client was getting confused when there was an invoice for the estimate and then a change order. Often they wanted to just be billed once. Oh, okay. Yes, they can do that. Alrighty. So those were really the kind of the basics of the estimate piece. I know we talked a little bit about the parts and categories library, where to find the templates. Again, if you go to manage, you can select either one of these options and it'll take you to that library. You can also look at from this menu all of your estimates, change orders, or invoices, and even purchase orders that you might have used with your vendors. So those are all here for you in these quick links as well. All right, next we have takeoffs. So this is one of our newer features for Houzz Pro, and it is an amazing feature. It's something that really is meant to have your construction plans uploaded in the digital format to Houzz Pro, and you no longer have to sit at your table and take out your ruler, like get your plans printed on special paper and then try to measure everything out and make sure the measurements are right so you're ordering the right amount of materials. This is really meant to quicken that process and make you more efficient and very accurate when you're doing material takeoffs. So from a couple places you can do it. One of the places is within the project you're already working on. So if you're under, let's stick with Bob Ross's project here, click on Takeoff. And I have one preloaded for us just for loading's sake here, but you can upload. If you didn't have any uploaded, that page that I was just on would give you a pop-up asking you to upload the file, and it does need to be in a PDF format for a Takeoff tool. You can also upload directly from here. Up at the top, there's this upload option. And then under floor plan, you'll see the one that I'm currently working on. You can also upload from here. So a couple different places you can upload. Now, let's say I didn't like what this was titled. Maybe it was just a bunch of jumbled letters and numbers and it wasn't like appropriately titled for your client. You can come over to the ellipses. You can either clone it if you want to make a copy, rename it. So let's say I'm going to name it Houzz Build Academy Takeoff. So it's easier for me to identify, rename, and that will change the name right here for you too. Now, if you did have multiple uploaded, you'd see them all in this list. So if I had a second one here, it'd be right underneath, and I can kind of toggle between the two for this one specific project. Biggest thing about takeoffs is making sure that your page settings are accurate so that your measurements are accurate. So you'll see on the left-hand window here at the bottom, page settings. So line width is just basically when you're drawing lines on the plans, how thick those lines are. So if you want to make them a little thicker, you can. It's set to 1 as your default, but you have smaller as well as larger lines that you can pick from. And then setting the page scale. So we have some of the standard measurements for page scale in here already for you. The one that's auto selected is 1/4 of an inch equals 1 foot. Now, if none of these really make sense for the plans that you've uploaded, you can absolutely set your own scale. It's one of our really cool tools in this feature. So what you would do is select Find Scale, and that's going to give you a prompt for next steps. So number 1, measure a known length on the page. Longer is better for accuracy. So let's say, for example, double click to finish and then insert the length. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's say I knew that this wall of the garage here on the right side was 14 feet. So you click, draw the line, and please excuse my drawing skills here. Double click, and then you're going to see how to set the scale. So again, the known measurement between these 2 points is going to be 14 feet. If it was 14 feet and 6 inches, I could also add that in as well. I'll leave it as 14 feet for calculation's sake, but you can customize this. And then set scale, update scale for all existing measurements on this page. So if you had already done a measurement, but then you're like, oh, whoops, I need to go back and set the scale, just say yes. And now you can see that scale is there for me. So 4 inches, this is 4 inches on the screen, is going to equal 14 feet on the actual construction plan. And then of course, we've got imperial and metric systems, can toggle between those two. Let's go back to imperial. And then that will get you set up to start using takeoffs from there. Before I dig into the tool menu bar and start actually doing the takeoffs on this tool, any questions on this piece and how to set the page scale?
Doesn't sound like it.
Okay, no problem. That means I'm just doing perfect, I guess, everybody. So if you need to zoom out, you absolutely can. And you can zoom out on the document. You can scroll up and down, back and forth. But really where you're going to be utilizing this tool the most after you set the page scale appropriately is through this menu bar here. So let's start with the rectangle option. That is going to allow you to measure the space for any room that's either a rectangle or a square. So it's not like an odd shaped room. So if let's say I was doing, for example, the living room, what you would do is select rectangle. And then the next option is your grouping here. This is where you're selecting what type of product you're actually inputting in here. So if this group name is, let's just do ceramic tile. You're trying to measure how much tile you would need for this living room. You can give it a name, give it a color. I'll just do this one in a dark color. And I recommend if it's a product that you use frequently to add it to your favorites. So you can click add to favorites and then select the square feet or cubic yards. We'll do square feet here. and then create that group. So you'll be able to see that group in your menu. And these are all the other groups that I've actually created previously. So I have roofing, vinyl flooring, carpeting. So we'll go through a couple of those other examples. If you did need to manage your favorites, you can do so right from this menu and then edit how much the price is, the color, appearance. If it's a count, we'll go through those in a minute, but you'll also have a little icon that you can use besides just the color. And I should take a minute to note here, these prices will not be auto-populated for you like the estimates are. You would need to enter these yourself. So if concrete is $104 per square foot, I would want to make sure I enter that into my favorites and then save from there.
Before we get too deep into takeoffs, Elise, Dave had a question about whole house plans. Do you have to upload plans room by room, or can you do a full set of house plans at one time?
So if they're all in the same PDF file, you can upload them all at once. It may just take a little bit longer to load the PDF, but it'll load multiple pages. I know this isn't a great example because it's only one page, but let's say this document was a 4-page PDF document. It would show all 4 pages here, and they would be numbered 1 through 4.
So yes, Dave.
Yes. Okay, let's go back to the rectangle option. And again, select that. I want to pull my ceramic tile group here. And then I'm just going to click and drag all the way through the living room. So that's going to show me that this ceramic tile is actually going to live in our measurements drawer here on the right. Now I can see that 72.25 square feet. And if I wanted to add height, width, depth, or pitch, like for roofs, I can open this up and add those as well. And that will calculate that for you. Now, this is going to be the group title. So ceramic tile is the name of the group or the name of the product, if you will, but you could also rename. This is just rectangle 1, but I could say living room. So it's more specific. And when we get to the review and estimate portion, you'll see why this is important. So it's not just a bunch of random codes and lettering on the estimate. It'll actually say what space it's for. And you can even go further and say flooring. Okay, how about the polygon tool? So this is similar to the rectangle tool. And I should mention too, you can pop this measurement drawer out and back in so you have more space to see on the screen. But the polygon tool, again, is similar to the rectangle tool. It is meant to measure the space, but it's more for an odd shaped room. So let's say, for example, bedroom number 1 here, I can see that it goes into the closet, but then there's a corner here, and then it goes and continues. So it doesn't go all the way into this entry area. And I'm going to measure this time, instead of tile, I'm going to say carpeting for bedroom 1. So I select carpeting as my group, select the polygon tool. And then again, you're going to click, but instead of dragging and dropping this time, you're going to click and continue to click until you get to the end when you'll double click. So click again, click again, click again, click again, and then at the very end, double click, and that will give you your polygon for this odd shaped room. Again, that will live in the measurements drawer here under carpeting. It'll change it to polygon, but you can say bedroom 1 flooring. All right, and let's say you wanted to do the same thing, but for bedroom number 2, you could duplicate this, or you could move it or delete it. Pop that back in. And for length, so next tool, this is typically measuring the length of a wall. So if you're looking for how much crown molding will I need, or things of that nature, this is a helpful measurement. So if we did, again, walls as an option, and I wanted to measure the length of the master bedroom wall, you'd click once, pull over, double click, and that will give you that measurement in the drawer here too. So this can say like master bedroom back wall. Maybe this is for crown molding. I feel like I always spell molding incorrectly. Alrighty. Now deduct. This is a fun tool. Let's say, for example, in bedroom number 1, I'll zoom in a little bit here on this measurement so you can see a little better. When you're using the deduct tool, it's actually what it sounds like. It's deducting the space from a measurement that you've already done. So if you're in bedroom 1 and you want to deduct, let's say in this bedroom, we're not going to do carpet in the closet. Maybe we're going to do something else or leave it how it is right now, you can just click, and you're going to click and hold and then drag across. And that tells you the square footage that it's actually reducing from that part of your measurement. So when you go back to your measurement for carpeting, you'll see that that now has decreased because you've removed that space. All right, last couple things on here. So for count, I'll zoom back out. That's another fun tool. I know I mentioned that when we were in the manage favorites section, but this is basically for anything that has multiple on a floor plan. So door frames, windows, sinks, outlets. Let's say sink, for example. If I select that, what I'm going to do when I'm on the count option is just click on the plan. And actually, no, let me zoom in a little bit more so you can see that better. Click on the plan, and anywhere there are sinks, you'll add those in. So here, I've also got a couple on this side, over here in the bathroom. It looks like that's it. So again, in your measurements drawer, you're going to be able to see your sinks with a count of 6. And then if you've entered your cost, which if you're like, oh, whoops, I forgot to go put that in, no problem. You just go back to manage favorites, find your sinks. I think I skipped it. Well, it will be in here, and you can adjust the price from here and add new favorites from here as well.
Since we're in here talking about settings and whatnot, how does this look for a painting use case rather than floors? So say you paint walls, but no floors.
So you can do, let's say let's do another wall as an example. Great question. You zoom out again. So let's say we wanted to paint this back wall of the dining room. You can use the length tool again and then do paint, I believe I have in here. And if not, that's okay. You can just add a group. I'll just pretend this says paint instead of siding. You could go here and again, click across and double click when you're done. And then that's when the cube tool is helpful. So if we're saying siding here, I'll just title this paint for dining room wall. It'll give you the square feet, but you can do the cubic option and add in the width and the height as well as the depth if you need it. And then of course, pitches for roof. So here you could say maybe the height is 10 feet. Width is not really important. Depth you don't really need either. But when you add those in and you click done, it will actually calculate that for you based on the entire wall.
Great, thanks.
No problem. All right, I'm trying to think of anything else on here. A new group, you can create a new group directly from here. You'll notice within Houzz Pro, there's a few places you can do the same thing, but it just gives you more access to these tools. And then lastly would be annotate. So let me pop this measurement drawer back in really quick. And then when we're looking at annotate, I can actually let's say on this plan, I wanted to call out that it's a specific type of carpeting. You can annotate and do a text box. Click your cursor there and say bedroom 1 is Gerber carpeting, whatever your note would be to the client. Or say like, we know we're still working on this, like whatever note you'd like to put on the plan, you can do so. And change the text color, size, the fill color, like the scribe option or the text box option. All right. Any questions besides what we've already talked about before I go into showing you how to convert it into an estimate? Okay, I don't see any others right now, so I will continue. So if we are done with this plan, we like the way this looks, we're done mocking it up, we would come over to measurements, and then you'll notice the review and estimate option. So you're going to click on that button, and it's going to take everything that you've measured so far on that plan. You can email your markups separately if you'd like, or you can start a new estimate. And it's going to give you this pop-up that asks you if you'd like to combine your groups onto one estimate or separate them. You'll notice the combine groups option is recommended because it'll keep your siding, your walls, your carpeting, all the groups that you just measured on one single estimate. However, if you did want to separate them, so you have them all on different estimates, you can do that as well. But the combined group is usually the default. And then you'll select next. That will populate for us here. And you'll notice this looks familiar. It now looks like one of our other estimates here. And it's not only going to include this great information about your company and the client, but here are all the details of what you just drew out on your plan. And then you can do the same thing like we were doing for other estimates as far as setting up payment schedules, adding in terms and conditions, files, a memo, and more. So here's what that will look like to the client. Preview and share again.
And you could also post this to the client dashboard if they wanted it. If you wanted to share it on the dashboard, that would go there too. Great.
Yes, exactly. I'll take a step back and show you how to do that here. So within the project itself, you know what, that's not through that option. It's on the project level for the dashboard. So now that's going to take me back to the takeoff, which is okay. Anytime you're in a menu view like this, if you click on the Houzz Pro option in the left, that will take you back to the main menu. And then again, you can navigate to your projects from here. Let's go to Bob Ross, and you can share to client dashboard for this project. So when you're doing that, let me show you what this looks like here. You're going to be able to see attachments. So here's my floor plans. Here's the ones that I've worked on previously, messages. You can also email your client or share the link with them. Pick and choose what you're showing here. Send them a message. And then messaging will be like your messaging history through our CRM lead system. Financials will be all the financial documents. So we can see our estimates there. Invoices and change orders, and they can approve right from here. And if you've got online payments set up, they'll be able to pay from here as well. So great reminder, instead of your client emailing or calling you or following up over text, however they're communicating with you, to be like, hey, when are you coming back again? Or did I sign that estimate? I can't remember. Pointing them to their client dashboard is a great place for you to direct them, because that way they'll be able to see all the kind of live updates with their project as you're moving through the different phases of the construction. Okay. Any additional questions about takeoffs?
Penny had a question about waste factors. So how do you account for waste or overages?
So that would be like, let's say you did I hope I'm understanding the question correctly, but let's say you did a takeoff and then you overestimated for something. That's when you can, from the takeoff, convert it into an estimate. And then from the estimate, you could do a change order with a negative line item. That is an option, even though it is typically for over costs. But the takeoff tool is meant to make sure you're not overspending on too many supplies or under ordering, to go too far in the opposite direction.
Thanks.
So we have gone through invoicing tips, scheduling online payments, our estimate tool, how to do change orders, and then our takeoff tool. So from here, I would love to show you guys the timeline. I know I talked in the beginning of this meeting how we have the timeline feature at the full project level. So you can go back to the project and select all projects again, or you can navigate back to projects right from the specific project that you're in currently. So if we go to projects here, we'll be able to see the master timeline if we click timeline through this menu. So this is going to show us for Bob Ross kitchen remodel and for Joey Tribbiani's bathroom remodel. Big fan of Friends here. We're going to be able to see the timelines and tasks that are associated with those projects. This is for today. You can also fit this to the screen or zoom in or out so you can actually see the dates. Again, this is the master timeline for every project that you might have going. Now, if you're looking at a specific project timeline, come back to all projects. Let's continue to use Bob Ross as an example. Click back into his project here. And then from here, you're going to see a timeline for just his project. So if we click timeline in the left menu, this is one of our newer features to our timeline. It can be viewed either as a calendar view, which you'll see looks like this, and it has all the dates here, the events. You can color code, so I'll show you that fun stuff in just a second. But if you go back to the Gantt view, this is my favorite view. I think this is so helpful to show all the different moving parts associated with completing a project. So for his project specifically, I have a couple different stages here. My first stage is the pre-construction of the project. So I have the location, I can edit this if I need to, description, get approvals, whatever it might be that you need in this phase of the project, you can add those details here. You can change the status. This is currently open. If it's completed, you can mark it as such. You can also assign it to a team member or a subcontractor. So right now it's assigned to me. I can also assign it to my client, and that will share it on the client dashboard, which you can see right up at the top here. And I can share it with my team member, which I have myself as a team member, but pretend this is maybe your project manager who's helping you. You can share the timeline with them so they're aware of all the moving parts of this project as well. I have the time set for all day. You can also change the dates here. So I have it starting today, going through next Tuesday, the 24th. So this is 5 working days, not including the weekends. One of our other new features of the timeline is the dependency feature. So this is basically telling me I cannot begin this portion of the project if I have something selected here. So maybe I had pre-construction as another phase or another stage of the project, then I could say pre-construction cannot be done, or excuse me, pre-construction can't be done until pre-construction is done. Same thing on the back end of the task. I don't want this part of the project to be moving while I'm moving into stage 2, which is construction. So here I'm saying this phase of the project is dependent on ending before the construction phase can begin. If I'm okay with pre-construction going into the construction phase, but it has to be done before post-construction, you can say this. So let's go back to my example of it needs to be done before the construction stage starts. You can also change the color if you'd like and add any additional sub items, which would be kind of like the notes of what needs to be done. Here I have board approval. So if I look over here on the left menu, if I click the down caret, there is my board approval right there. I can add sub items from here as well as from the left menu. So the reason I'm showing you all of this is they're called dependencies because if I move this, maybe this timeline's getting pushed up a little bit to Friday, it's also going to move the sub item and it's going to move the next stage of the project out, because that's basically telling me I can't start the construction phase until I do the pre-construction. So if that date gets pushed, then the other dates are also going to get pushed. And if I scroll even farther over, you can see that post-construction also got pushed. So another way to confirm that is if you're looking at the construction stage as the next stage, again, you can add your details in here, assign it. Maybe I'm just going to assign this to myself this time. And then the due date will be whatever the due dates are that we have in here. And then this is good at showing the dependency on the before side. So again, I can't start construction until pre-construction is completed. And then this would end before, let's say, post-construction. So now we can see the dependencies here. I'll zoom out just a little bit. Oh, I'm zooming in. So we can see now that these are all, I'm sorry, I zoomed way too far out. My apologies. Can also just click back on this stage. Now I can see that these are, again, dependent on each other. And you can get as granular as the date, like the day, so 8/6/2021, and the time of the day as well. Any questions? Sorry, I'm trying to navigate back to that screen so I can show you, but any questions on this piece?
Yeah, so I had a question about the board option and if we can dig a little farther into the board.
Mm-hmm. So if we go, let's just take pre-construction as an example. So if we go back to pre-construction, and this was just kind of a random item, but within pre-construction, you have your description, but maybe it's going to be like for pre-construction, I need board approval. I need, maybe let's add another item saying sub item 2. I also need plans approved by the city. So whatever those tasks are, that's going to get you through completing stage 1 of the pre-construction of the project. So I'll save that, details, whatever those details might be. So let's say for this one, I'm actually going to assign this to my project manager to go do. So I can assign this to a team member from here. And then date, you can update those as well. Again, it'll show you the working days, and then it's dependent on beginning after or before. So I would want, for example, this sub item of getting plans approved to be done after the board approval. And board approval you can adjust just like you can do there with these options.
So you can make the board approval dictate the length of the phase, for example?
Mm-hmm.
So any sub item or any subtask can dictate how long the phase is.
Right.
Okay.
And if I can, let me fit this back. So that's a good correction. If you did what I just did and like zoomed out way too far, just fit it to the page and it should give you the menu again. You can see it on the Gantt chart. So let's try zooming a little bit. So for today, we can see again, pre-construction here. If I click on it, it's going to open this window up so I can edit anything. And then from options, you can delete this entire thing if you need to. So I love this tool. It's a great way to see, again, pre-construction can't be done until, or excuse me, construction can't be done until pre-construction's done. And for pre-construction to be done, board approval and plans by the city need to be done. So things just build on each other as far as order of priority of what is being completed in each stage to then move on to the next stage, which we nicknamed dependencies within the timeline. Any other questions on this particular part? All right. So in addition, you can invite your subcontractors and vendors to collaborate on a project. I'm going to go dig into teams and subs now with permissions and how they can see different things within Houzz Pro, because of course you're sometimes moving with many different teams and outside factors within a project to complete it. So first, before we go there, just like Cameron previously mentioned, we can share to a client dashboard. And now we're actually going to be able to see, again, their open documents, financials, attachments, and then you know what? There should be a timeline feature there. The timeline is also able to be shared on the dashboard. Let me just edit this here. Okay, assignees, perfect. That means this is assigned to me. So this is editing the project details, like budget, for example, a call out to finish setting up online payments, project scope, and then project code. So I mentioned those are kind of created automatically, but if you wanted an easy way to look in projects of how to find a specific project, maybe you say like kitchen remodel is your code for any kitchen remodels. And then project type you can also add in. And if you need to edit the client further, you can do that from here as well. Here's all your client details. So their name, address, any additional emails, maybe it's a couple. If you have a couple that you're working with, it's usually helpful to have them set as one client, but you can put like as their full name, Bob and Nancy Ross. And then you can have the main email, but the additional email address maybe is Nancy's email. Additional phone number could be hers. If you're working with a company versus a homeowner, you can add their company name here also. Address details and any internal notes what you'd like to leave about them. Maybe, they like to be communicated with on the weekends or on the evenings, whatever internal notes you might have about that particular client, you can edit from here as well. I know that was kind of a sidebar, but I think it's important for everybody to know where to edit and how to edit the project. So it's as easy to access and has all the detail right at your fingertips through the project. Taking a step back here. So within the project too, before we dive into teams and subs, we have all the different options you can select from. Takeoffs, estimates, invoices. You also have retainers and credits you can create. So if you're creating a retainer, it's basically the same as taking a deposit on your documents, and credits are if you did, for example, have to remove an item from an estimate, you could create a credit on that project that then can be applied for future payments, purchase orders. And these are some other great fields for clients and for your internal teams to be aware of. Files are really any files that are related to this project. So again, it could be things you created within Houzz Pro. It could be receipts or photos, or maybe you had like a signed document that you had with the client, a physical copy that you scanned and then uploaded. You could add that here as well. Notes, this is a great one. This is something that can be shared internally with like your subs, your team members. Maybe you're at a meeting, like intro client meeting, 5/18/22. You can add your notes. And then any team member or a subcontractor that's shared on this project will also be able to see these notes. So great like recap of maybe what happened during the project. And daily logs is an even like better option if you're trying to write down, today on the job site, we were able to demolish the kitchen, we were able to lay the new subflooring, and we were able to lay the new ceramic tile. You could add those in and even say, so here's like what was done for today, what we have planned this week, month, whatever your timeline is. Can't spell. And then maybe even like down to weather. Like tomorrow it's supposed to snow, or tomorrow Joey is going to be on the job site instead of John. So these are good notes to leave as your daily log for like a recap of the day of what happened on the job site. And same here, you can share to the client dashboard as well. Okay. So let's go back. Go ahead.
If we go back to the timeline for a sec, James had a question about those subtasks, those pesky subtasks. If a subtask ends up being longer than the overall phase, does it give you an error message? Look, how does the system behave if your subtask lasts longer than the overall phase?
Great question. Let's take a look. So just to confirm, pre-construction is from May 21st through May 27th. So from there, let's look at our sub items. So being approved by the city, oops. We have this May 21st through, let's say this is actually the 28th. So that will be longer than the actual construction, the pre-construction phase. And then let's say that's basically routing you back to say, okay, pre-construction is done, but these sub items are not completed yet. So it will still let you move to the construction phase because the dependency is pre-construction to construction versus if we went back to pre-construction and looked at the dependency, we still have none for beginning after because that's the first item, but we can have it, actually it's still just construction and post-construction. So those subtopics are there, but the dependencies are based on the stage. So if you'd rather not do a sub item, but add a new stage instead, you can. You would just go to, you can also sync to your calendar. That's a good call out. If you use Google, a great way to sync with Gmail and your Google Calendar. So you can go to stages, open that back up. And then from here, you can add an additional sub item. I apologize. I'm not seeing the way to add a third, fourth stage here. I will play around with that and come back. Oh, you know what? There it is. Right in front of my eyes. That's add item box right here. So this blue would allow you to add a fourth option. So instead of doing the, let's say, plans approved by the city, we can name this one plans approved by city. And then again, we can change the dependency. So this would begin, I need to move this. I need to move the dates, that's why. So let's say this begins on the 21st and would be completed on the 23rd. And you can begin after pre-construction and end before we move into the construction phase. So that would be kind of the workaround to making sure you don't move forward with the construction until you're done with the plans being approved.
And it somehow flags you though that maybe you're behind schedule. Like, does it throw like a warning? Hey, you looks like you're behind schedule.
You know, I don't think it has a warning right now, but I'm actually deleting the sub items, so those aren't on here. This gives you a warning. It won't affect the main timeline, but it will delete any dependencies related to the sub item. Are you sure you want to? So if I had a dependency like pre-approved by the city and board approval are dependent on each other, it would delete both of them. So I'm going to say, yes, I'm sure I want to delete. And I didn't have them dependent, so it didn't remove that for me. But board approval, I'm also going to take this one off. And now we can see a little wonky, but you can see that it goes from pre-construction through plans being approved by the city, and now we can start the construction phase. And if we don't have a notification, because I'm not 100% sure, that's a great product request.
For sure.
For
That's
our
a good
product
idea.
team.
I'll take that down.
Okay, great. Okay. I love the color coding. It's very pleasing. Any other questions on the timeline and dependencies in general?
Penny's question was around seeing, where'd that go? Seeing multiple projects in one schedule?
Yes, you can. So if you go back to either from here or up in the top menu, go to your all projects. I'll just navigate from here and then select timeline from this menu. So you're not clicking into one of the individual projects, you're clicking in from timeline here. This will give you the main timeline. And again, you can fit this to today. You can show, this is showing the entire month. If you want to go back, you can adjust these. And again, you can zoom in and out. If it's easier, my preference, of course, it's totally up to you and what makes sense for you. But what I like to do is on this master timeline, actually have it in the calendar view. So you can see it more at a glance and you can click in between your two projects. So here's Bob Ross, there's your calendar. And then if we were to take a step back and look at Joey's project, we can now go to his project and then see his calendar as well. But this would be the way to see multiple projects on one calendar view. And you can change from month to week or day. Hopefully that answered your question, Penny. Any other questions on the timeline? Alrighty, I'm just going to keep moving along. So we'll come back. I know I've kind of water dropped this throughout this presentation today of where you can add subcontractors or vendors or team members. There's multiple places throughout Houzz Pro where like you can assign them. One being what we were just looking at. So if we go to Bob Ross and look at his timeline, and for pre-construction, again, I've assigned this to myself. I'm the company. I've assigned it to my team member, not to be confusing. There's two Elises. And I've also assigned it to my client. Maybe there is something I need their help with as well in the pre-construction phase. You can do the same thing within, sorry, not your documents, within your files, your notes, as well as your daily logs. You'll notice that this is collaborated. You can duplicate and edit, delete. And then if you see this option here with the green little team member guy, that means this is visible to all of my team members by default. And if I want to share further, I can share the daily log and show it on the client dashboard. Let's say, yes, I do want my client to have access to this. My team members naturally have access. And if I have any subs or vendors that I've invited to the project, they will also be able to have access if I have this toggled on. Alrighty, so now I know why this wasn't showing before. It's because I didn't have that selected. So if we go back to share client dashboard, now you see it's added the daily logs on there, and those are available for the client as well. Messages. So this is the messaging tool between the client and yourself. So typically, I know there's another session that's going to go through this in a lot more detail, but in our CRM tool, which is our lead management system, you can also assign different leads to, maybe you have a project manager that handles all incoming new clients. You can see you can edit, snooze, archive, or even delete a lead. But if you are to click into a lead, you can actually assign it directly here on the right-hand side. So for Joe, I would like myself to be the lead owner of this. So that means like, I'm going to get the details. I'm the one kind of responsible for moving this lead through the prospective client stage to the confirmed, like approved client stage. Another thing you can assign team members and subs for are in projects. So if you go to all projects here, and let's take, I'll use this new project as an example, a bathroom refresh for Tommy. You can see I can invite subs, so I'll come back to that in a moment. But for project assignees, I can either include myself or my team member, or both of us. So I actually want to be on this project, but I want my team members' help as well. So that way they'll have access to all these different items within a project. Now, I know there are probably questions about like, well, what if I don't want my team member to have full access to Houzz Pro? We've thought of that too. If you go over in the top right, you'll see a bunch of little icons here. We've got a stopwatch feature for tracking time, your little notifications bell, any messages through the little mail icon, but then our settings are going to show different areas of Houzz Pro settings. So accounts, profile settings, billing, looking at your subscription for Houzz Pro, but where I'm going to navigate to is Teams here. So if we go into Teams, this is going to show me at a glance within the Houzz Pro system. I'm the admin, I'm the owner of the company, but I do have a team member here, and I also have a subcontractor that I've added. You can add additional people here as well, depending on how many seats that you have with your subscription. You can invite a subcontractor, you'd enter their details, email, their role. Subcontractor and vendor are the default ones, so you can select either one of those and then continue to add them in. Now, let's say you're adding another team member. So if I wanted to invite, I'll just say John, Stacy, and I'm going to say, I'll just put my personal email. And then next, you can actually customize the permissions of what both your team members and your subs have access to. So based on their role, team member, you can also change this if you'd like. You can customize this and say maybe like project manager, and all you do is type it in and then click to add. So this is basically saying, my project manager, who's my like number 2 at the company, they help me with everything. I want them to have access to leads, client communication, to be able to do the estimating and takeoffs. I also want them to have access to projects, client communication, invoicing and change orders. Again, the estimate and takeoff tool, being able to edit, create and send them, being able to edit, create and send purchase orders. These are typically, these 3 here at the bottom come unchecked on purpose. Because QuickBooks integration, it's a little more sensitive. It's your accounting information. If it's somebody who's your right-hand person, you may want to give them access, but we naturally just uncheck that to start. Reports, and then time, expenses, and rates. I can go through these sections very high level because we do have some time. Happy to do that. And then visual tools are like our 3D floor planner, our mood boards, and more of the visual design side of a construction project. And then I would click invite. Yes.
What do those? What do the people that get invited? What do they see? Do they get an email? Do they get a notification? How do they get notified that, hey, Elisa's invited you?
Yep, great question. So we'll get on my end. I'll see this. Great, invitation has been sent. What's next? The homeowner, or excuse me, the team member will get an invite in their inbox. I can actually take a peek at my email really quick and pull this up. So let me actually switch my screen share so you guys can see this here. All right, so I have the Houzz Pro team member invitation is what the title will be. And it says, join Team Elisa's building company. Hi, John, Stacy, you've been invited. That will ask them to sign in on Houzz Pro to access their account. They can click the sign in option here. One really important call out is that we team members should not have their own Houzz Pro subscription. They should have just a regular user account on Houzz. So if they don't have one, they can create one, but they don't need to sign up for Houzz Pro as well, or sign up for a free trial or anything. They'll be able to use the Houzz Pro tools through your own subscription. So just an important thing to note really quick there.
Great, thanks for that. What about if you're inviting someone to the project, can you assign them a task?
Yes, thank you. I almost forgot to go over tasks. So you'll see it says pending for the team member, and same for subs until they accept the invite. And that'll say it was sent on the 18th, and you can always resend the invitation if they're like, hey, I never got it, or you can completely remove it and send it again, or even edit their permissions from here. So like this person, they're already activated. I can edit what permissions they have. So they're a little more limited on what they can do. Okay, tasks. Very, very good question. So tasks can be reached from a couple different places. Right from the projects menu, you'll see tasks here. You can also see it right from the Houzz Pro homepage. So if you were to click on the logo in the top left, you'll see that there. And I love this because you have a card view, which is what we're seeing here. And you also have a list view. So different ways that you can view the project. You can also sort by due date, what's the newest, the project name, or the person's name, the client name. You can search by all projects or even specific projects, and all assignees. So all of my clients that I have here and all of my team members. So if I assigned a task, you can add a new task directly from here. And let's say, need to pick up plans from city office, whatever that might be. So let's say you got your plans approved. Now you need your project manager to go pick them up. You're going to say this task is open. You can select done once it is complete. You want to assign it to a project. So I'm going to continue to do Bob Ross's kitchen remodel here. The due date is tomorrow. We need these pretty quickly. You can also share the task to the timeline. So let's select that and I'll show you what that looks like here. Select assignee. We're going to assign this to my team member. We can also assign it to a subcontractor if you'd like. But let's say I need my team member to go do this. Please pick up plans from the city office. Mary at the front desk is who to ask for, whatever the case might be. You can even add the address in there. If you need to upload any attachments, you can do that as well. And then save. And there is your first task. This one is one I'd done previously. This one here is due in 1 day. And then let's say my team member is on top of it. They actually completed it today. They can go in and complete this. So you would click in and actually mark it as done, or I can go in and do that as well. I don't want to do that though, because I want to show you what it looks like on the timeline. So let's go back to Bob Ross's project here, and then we'll scroll over to the timeline. And now we can see in the calendar view, there is the task right there for the 19th. Okay. And you know what? I realized why the timeline wasn't showing on the dashboard. So I apologize. I'll go back and correct myself there. I do want this to be shared on the client dashboard. So what you would do is select the share option here, give access. Then you can give detailed access or basic. It's kind of up to you how much you want the client to see. Let's do detailed. And then team members, they have access. If my subs need access, I can do that as well. And now I can see it's shared with my client, which is the blue, which means it's on the dashboard. It's shared with my team members, and it's also shared with the sub or vendor that I'm working with on this project. Let's look at what that looks like. There we go. So there's your timeline option for the client. It'll open up the window for them, and they can look at it in a calendar view or in a Gantt view. And if you want to see a larger view, just pop this window on the right back in. Okay.
That looks nice.
Yes,
There's a question
I love it.
about assigning tasks. We covered off on a ton of assigning tasks, but can we assign tasks on leads?
You should be able to. If we go back to our lead section, which again, just like projects, you can go to leads and look at all of your leads. And that's just the edit option. So if we click into the lead itself, that's just your messaging history. Actually, you know what? I don't think we have the ability to assign a task on a lead currently, unless I am missing it on the page. This is their activity in the lead.
Yeah, maybe it's when the project is converted. So it's like,
Yep.
Hey, Mr. Homeowner, please approve this. Please approve this proposal so we can move forward.
Correct. So if we converted to a project, you would update the details. This is helpful. So Houzz can read, especially if you happen to be marketing your business or advertising with us, just ways to get smarter in the CRM system. So where did the lead come from? Maybe it was a referral from another client, the estimated revenue you could take from the project. So maybe the revenue you're hoping for is 100,000. The profit maybe is going to be 45,000. And then the expected start date, let's say that's going to be on the 20th. confirm. I already know what that's 2021. So pretend that's this year. And that will actually convert your lead into a project. So anything you did on the lead, whether it was an estimate, you built an invoice, you did a takeoff, those will be in your messaging history. All of that will be carried over from the lead to the project. And then on the overview page, this is what I was looking for. So when you're on the specific project, you can see tasks right here as well. So Cameron, you are correct. When you convert a lead into a project, that's when you can then assign a task. And this looks a little different than the main task page, but let's just say assign estimate. And now we'd be able to click into here and we can assign it to our client, which is Joe Smith, and write them a quick description, change the settings so it's shared. Please assign estimate from yesterday's meeting. You can even upload it. If you had exported your estimate as a PDF, you can upload it here as well, and then save. So now when you go to the client dashboard, you can see their tasks here as well. And then they can mark as done. So once they're done, they just go in and check that off, and you'll know that you'll also get an email when they sign their estimate digitally. It'll send you an email from Houzz Pro saying your client, Joe, has signed estimate number, whatever the number is, but they can also mark that complete here. Great questions. Keeping me on my toes. I like it.
Well, let's keep you on your toes. Timesheets for employees.
Yes, timesheets. So I mentioned the stopwatch feature. This is where it's literally like a digital stopwatch. You can track your time. So if you start the stopwatch, you should be assigning it to a project. So let's keep going with Bob Ross. And what's the service? So these are all services that I have entered myself. You can create a new one also. So if we're doing, let's say we're working on the design plans for this kitchen remodel, our hourly rate, maybe we've upped our rate to $400 an hour, and it is taxable and it's going to be billable to the client. So spending time drawing design plans for kitchen. And then you start the stopwatch. And when you see the clock ticking here, that means that this is tracking your time. So a great way to track if you're doing something, if you're driving to and fro from different job sites, you'll be able to track expenses as well. And I'll show you how to do that. You can run 3 stopwatches at a time. So if we have Bob Ross going for 1, and then maybe my team member is in here working on Joey's project, you can add a stopwatch for that. So let's pick his project here. Again, our rate has changed. Start the stopwatch. And now you're going to see both of those running at the same time for 2 different projects. And we can log time to stop or delete. So I'm going to delete this one. And then I'm going to log the time for this one. And I should mention the stopwatch feature is available on the Houzz Pro app. So you can do this on the go as well. Okay, so a couple places you can do expenses. So you'll see in the left menu, sorry, not from projects. If we go back to manage, you're going to see time and expenses here, which is a separate page. And that's all under the finances tab where you can see your other financial documents as well as your financial reporting. And from here, you're going to see like this one I just did, the spending time drawing the design for the kitchen. I can select this, can manage services and adjust what I have here, or I can add a new service. Again, just overall services to track. If I want to edit or delete, I can do that as well. Or I can create an invoice from here. One of the new features too that we just launched is that we can actually do invoicing for time and expenses on one invoice. So let's say I wanted to do this time that I was tracking, and then I also had an expense. I can do a new entry. Again, I'm going to assign it to his project. The team member was me. The service was, sure, let's say I purchased paint and the cost was $100. Taxable and billable. Quantity, I got 2 cans. Purchased paint at Lowe's, wherever I went. And you can even upload a file, like a picture of the receipt if you'd like. Save. This is great for like your subs or your team members who are buying materials and stuff all day, but you want to incorporate it into the cost for the client. Save that, and then we'll be able to track time as well as that expense here. And then you'll notice the number is showing that I have 2 items selected, and I can create that invoice right from here. And that's going to give me both the time that I was tracking, which would be similar if you like your team member was clocking in and out and tracking their time that they're working. Here's a great tutorial. We have a lot of these little pop-ups throughout Houzz Pro that have great videos. So I highly recommend if you see one of these, watch the video tutorial because they're very, very helpful as far as all the different features and tools within Houzz Pro. And then you can see time billing here and expenses are both on the same invoice. Any other questions on time and expenses? We'll go back to that main page.
Here's a good question. Receipt scanners. Does the app have a receipt scanner in it? Or can you, I know you can take a picture of a receipt, but will it scan the receipt?
It won't scan the receipt currently. That's another great product request, but you can upload it. So take a photo of it with your phone or your iPad and then upload that as a file to the project, to the estimate, to the time and expense, wherever it's relevant within Houzz Pro.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Penny. Thank you.
Anything else I can help cover before we look at where to get help and like the help options within Houzz Pro?
Yeah, one last one from Andrina. Time tracking for employees that are out in the field.
Yes.
So
you can do the time tracking through the Houzz Pro app. So once you invite your team member to Houzz Pro, they'll have their own sign-in. So it's the same shared account, but they'll have their own email and their own password they use to log in. They can download the Houzz Pro app and sign in that way. And then they would just navigate to the stopwatch and start the stopwatch for tracking their time. So you would assign it to Bob Ross. For here, you could create a new service. You just start typing it in. So let's say I wanted to do team member time. You could just create that item. Hourly rate, maybe I'm just totally making this up. Maybe they make $30 an hour. And then description would be team member rate during working hours. And then start the stopwatch and have that running the entire time that they are working. And then of course, log the time when they're done. Okay. Anything else I can cover? I feel like I could walk around Houzz Pro and talk about it all day, but.
Yeah, no, there's a lot in here, but we intended it to be as simple as possible.
Yeah. Yes, very intuitive. I am not a contractor, but I could get the hang of this software. And once you like start going through the document flow and sharing it, and your client's able to access information, and your subs and your team members are on the same page, and you're all what we call Houzz Pro at its heart is a all-in-one business solution. So it includes everything from tracking time, setting up your tax rates, doing your documents, invoicing through here, connecting with QuickBooks. I know there was a question about that. I can show you where your Houzz Pro settings are, which I think is going to be something that's gone into more detail in another session. But so you can see from the gear menu here, you can set up your online payments from here, financials and accounting, teams is the team member page we were looking at. If you want to integrate your calendar, and then integrations is specific to QuickBooks Online. So if you wanted to click here, now I don't have a QuickBooks Online account, but it would take you to this page. Again, another great video from our Houzz Pro YouTube channel. You can set up your tax agency here. It gives you some how-to articles, turning off automation, turning on purchase orders if you have that specific level of QuickBooks for that subscription, and then connecting your account. And it'll actually walk you through setting up and like syncing Houzz Pro to QuickBooks Online. And it is a one-way sync. So it moves from Houzz Pro into your QuickBooks account. Might as well show you guys the other settings here because there's a lot of them that you can pick through. When you're on the Houzz Pro settings page, which I just clicked back a step, you can also go to see all settings, or if you're in your main like Houzz profile menu, there's your Houzz Pro settings right here. Profile settings would be for your actual Houzz profile. So Houzz Pro settings would take you to this page where you can then see again your teams, your contacts, and your address book, your billing, any profile information, your account setup, which I know that these are going to be dived into deeper, but calendar, QBO integration, online payments, and then subscription details.
There was another question about business tasks. So if you wanted to track business tasks, would you need to set up like a business project, or is there a spot for those type of expenses?
Can you clarify what you mean by business tasks?
If I'm reading it right, Penny, I think what you mean is maybe overhead tasks. I'm not sure, actually. Let's see if...
Penny, if you have any more details, feel free to type that in.
Non-billable tasks and time tracking. Thank you, Penny.
Then yes, you can set up, that would be a good workaround, is just set up a brand new project. You could go to all projects, create a brand new one right from here, and then anything you're assigning to that project essentially wouldn't be billable to the client. It would act as like that overhead. Can you sync a Google or Wix calendar? Yes, you can. I'm not 100% sure about Wix, but I definitely know you can with Google Calendar. So if you go to your calendar settings, it will connect here. And then the great thing about the calendar sync is it's not only just for like scheduling meetings on your physical calendar, but you can also do video meetings if you'd like. This was huge at like the height of COVID because of course people were a little apprehensive to meet in person, but this is a great way to be able to virtually meet. Or maybe you have a client that is in New York and you're based in California, great way to still meet over Zoom. We integrate with Google Meet, 8x8, Zoom. I believe we have Teams as well. You can make a phone call, video call, on-site visit, or a profile video consultation. So lots of different options here for meeting type when you schedule that. All right. I'm going to dive into where to get help. I am actually one of the product support managers at Houzz. So the Houzz Pro world is what I live in every day, and my team helps support all of our professionals with technical questions and navigating the software. So the help menu is near and dear to my heart. When you're in the help menu, you can see our 800 number. This is going to go to our inbound phone line for support, and one of my agents would answer and help you through your questions. We have an amazing help center. If I click in here, you'll notice our help center pops up, and you can be signed in or signed out of Houzz to be able to access this. The link is houzz.com/pro-help. And we've got lots of like topics here, marketing and advertising, our 3D floor planner. There's more on like integrations. If I typed in takeoffs, for example, I would come up with some options here, how to use takeoffs. And the great thing about our articles is they actually say at the top who these articles are best for. So these are more for our build and our core Houzz Pro clients versus design, and then the plan type that they have. So lots of great videos are incorporated in these help articles. I love these. I highly recommend utilizing them once you're digging into Houzz Pro. We take a step back here. That's the help center. From the help menu, again, you'll be able to see a couple other pages. So there's our video tutorials page. I'll just open these up one by one. There's also our learn page. So video tutorials, this is probably one of my favorite pages that we have as far as support and help. Outside of the help center, this is all videos that are broken down by category. So estimates and proposals are linked here. Any of these topics you click on will give you those specific videos. Integrations, I know there was a question to do a little more of a deep dive on QuickBooks. These videos are very helpful to walk through some of those more intricate details of QuickBooks and setting that up. So that's our learn page. Yes.
I was going to say another place you can get information about best practices for business, like for industry best practices, is our learn blog. So if you click on learn, it's in the blog part.
Great call out. Learn blog right here. Yep.
Yeah. In case you need help with things that are not specifically related to the Houzz Pro software, but just looking to improve some of the aspects of your business.
Yep. Any webinars, which of course would be including these sessions, video tutorials, and then pro success stories. It's always cool to see what other colleagues in our industry are using Houzz Pro for and how it's helped them be successful. So you can see that by design and by contractors. And then lastly, within the help menu here, we talked about the video tutorials and learn. But really important too, if you do need help, please reach out to my team. That's what we're here for. Lots of ways you can get in touch with us. You can either call us through this number. You can submit a support inquiry, which you're going to get this pop-up when you do that. So what you're going to do is select the topic. Let me just maximize this. I know it's a little small. Let's say I need help with takeoffs. Then you can say takeoffs, write your description. My takeoffs needs the page scale fixed, whatever your inquiry might be. Then you click submit, and that creates a case attached to your account on our end, and we'll reach out to you to troubleshoot with you and help kind of guide you through best practices for this particular topic. Now, we do request one topic per case. So if you had a question on takeoffs and then you had another on the 3D floor planner, you would submit the takeoffs one first, and then it's recommended to go back in and select the right option, 3D floor plans, and say, I need help navigating floor plans, whatever the request might be. So that would be your second case with us. In addition, we also have live chat support. So if you click on this contact support option here, that's going to open up our chat bot, which is first going to come up with a menu of options of like how we can help with some quick actions like membership questions, payment questions, account updates, like maybe you need to change your email address or something like that. You need software help, or you have a product feedback option, or you can chat live with one of my agents on my team. So lots of ways you can get in touch with us. We are available Monday through Friday from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time. And yeah, if you need help, please reach out to us because we are happy to assist. I think the last thing I wanted to cover today is just where you can really kind of self-educate on like what is new within the Houzz Pro system. The beauty of working here is that things are constantly being innovated. We're always looking for feedback from our professionals, ways we can improve and build upon our products. And we are also launching new features all the time. Like our 3D floor planner, I know we didn't discuss that today, but that's one of the tools that we're consistently updating, adding new products to. So if you're ever interested in what's new within Houzz Pro, you can simply click on your little icon from your profile. And then there's this what's new in Houzz Pro option here. When you click on that, that's going to open up all of our latest articles. So project tracking experience for designers. So for our design clients, we just introduced that project tracker feature, a life-size walkthrough. So our 3D floor plans, we actually have an AR feature on our app that you can scan the room and put your floor plan into the client's home while you're standing right next to them. It's such a cool feature. Talking about that at the International Builders Show this year was really exciting. A lot of pros really love that tool. Taking home awards, so more announcements on like Best of Houzz and how to get more awards. And again, you can see kind of all the top updates with Houzz Pro from this view as well.
Excellent.
All right.
Elise, thank you for letting us give you all these questions. Thank you to the audience
Thank you for
all your great questions and feedback. I have a couple noted down that we'll get into our product queue for the roadmap. But thank you so much for joining today. And we will follow up with the recording later. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.